Welcome everybody to the Scale Up Show. This is your host Ryan, and I have a very special guest back with me today. I have Matt Van Itallie, who's the founder and CEO of SEMA. Who's doing some amazing work with Gen AI, comprehensive code-based scans, as well as the private equity market. If you did not listen to episode 1, go back and check it out. We get deep into understanding the intersection of AI and knowledge work, specifically as it relates to the technical side. So even if you are not technical, Matt dropped some bombs in there that you're not going to want to miss. Matt, welcome. Happy to have you back.
Thank you so much, Ryan. It was such a pleasure to do the first one, and I can't wait for this one.
Can't wait. Me too, man. Like I said, whenever you have an episode that flies by like what we had last time, that's a sign we get not a good, but a great episode to me. So today we're going to talk about something that is hyper interesting to me, just like the last one. We're talking about building an AI advisory council. Okay. So I know you're doing this on the technical side for CTOs as a specific part of what you're doing. You're just kind of starting that initiative, which I think is absolutely amazing. I'm starting to help companies deploy this internally for AI skill transformation, specifically for go-to-market teams and other parts of the business. So I'm excited to mix this up with you. So walk me through just kind of like your vision and strategic approach for an AI advisory council. And then like, I'll chime in, man. We can go back and forth and riff on it.
Amazing. So big picture, of course, code and the software development process in general is going through one of the biggest, if not the biggest, transformation of the last 3 decades, at least as big as open source and probably bigger. And that is coders using generative AI to code, to understand code, to test it, to refactor and improve it, and to prototype. Along with that comes a whole bunch of questions about, am I doing it the right way? Is our team using it the right way? What risks should we be thinking about? SEMA was absolutely honored by our customer base to build a software product that helps manage how much Gen AI code is in the code base, like an ingredients list of the Gen AI in the code. And along the way, we got tons and tons of questions from customers, from prospects, from folks who are just interested of how to think about the risks and benefits from using Gen AI code. So for all those reasons, we decided to put together, exactly as you said, an AI advisory council. This is the ones we've started so far are very much on the technologist side, senior technologists like CTOs and also engineering managers and technologists from private equity companies. And the idea, first and foremost, is to help them share their ideas and share benchmarking data. The number one question that's on folks' minds about using Gen AI code is, how much is other people using it, and are we using it the right way? And given that this is still the early days of adoption, 100% of companies use open source, use it almost every day, something like that. We're not at that stage yet with Gen AI, even though people are talking about it for coding. And so the number one goal is helping technologists share benchmarking data. So it's free to join, but you have to share your data, which then gets anonymized and shared. If you're a customer of ours, you can, we provide that data for them, but otherwise you can get the data through some other ways. Secondarily, we share best practices and ideas. Our policy and research team conducts research on topics that members of the advisory council finds important, and we try to have a little fun along the way too.
Love that, man. Okay, so I think that's amazing. So are you also with the benchmarking and sharing, obviously, use cases? Is that like a core center focus as well, or no?
It's a great question. We do a little of it. It's, in our experience, almost every company has at least a little bit of examples of the use cases already. They are looking for what is the scale of this going on with other organizations. And they know that, yes, I can use it for prototyping. Yes, I can use it for fixing. Yes, I can use it for new features. So they know that those use cases exist. The most hunger we've heard about is for the stats on, well, just how much usage is there.
Okay, gotcha. So that makes sense. So it's interesting. So on the knowledge worker or the white collar, I keep saying white collar. I don't know why I think of that. So let's. I'm going to use a different term. I'm iterating in real time here. I'm using my internal chat GPT. So let's just go down. Not non-technical knowledge workers. How does that sound? Right, to simplify it. So the biggest areas I'm seeing interest on is for the use cases. So, and then the other thing is like to leverage it more like hyper specific prompts or workflows for that is kind of what I'm seeing. Have you anything like that along the lines of getting more tactical, or are you dealing with
Well, I
such high
guess
level
I'd say
folks
I've
today?
I've seen that bifurcation as well, just from from our team's experience. Like our product team, of which I consider myself an honorary member, we are learning the different things that Gen AI can be used for, and we knew it could be used for research for white papers, but then we realized we could have a conversation with it to make user stories. And then, and you had mentioned this before our call, Ryan, now Claude can make wireframes, and folks who don't know coding much can start being hacker coding to put together prototypes. So on that non-technical knowledge workers, just from our own experience, we're seeing like it would be really helpful to know, oh my goodness, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. On the coding side, you know, I think it's pretty clear. I mean, there are a set of coding activities, depending which taxonomy you want to use. Gen AI can be used for every single one. Every single one. Now, there's different circumstances on how well it works, but there is a known universe of coding activities. And what we're in now is the experimentation with is under what circumstances does it make sense to prototype with Gen AI? Under what circumstances does it make to refactor? So I think they're aware of the the use cases. They have the universe. Now they want some guidance on where should they be really encouraging the team.
Okay. And is there a lot of focus as well on, I know you said the stats, but what about like the stack as well, like the tech stack of different types of like, whether it's Claude versus, GitHub Copilot versus ChatGPT versus Microsoft Copilot, any focus areas like that?
Yes, so far for us there hasn't been. Hasn't been that focus. There are many very high quality Gen AI tools for coders. And as I mentioned on the last episode, the most important thing is that teams pick an enterprise level license so they protect their IP. Within that, coders are and engineering leaders are very particular about finding the right tool or tools that work for them. And
Yeah.
so we're seeing less. They want the community's advice on which of those tools to use, and more, how do we make the most of them? How do we carry out the benefits from the Gen AI stack that we are using?
Okay. That makes sense, man. Because like I would say, if you look at the maturity cycle, basically the coders and developers are way ahead of, and I think it's more linear, like kind of what you're talking in terms of less ambiguous in terms of some of the use cases. Because like I'm seeing a lot of times folks on, and maybe this is why you're seeing examples of like Microsoft's doing these large rollouts. They did a case study with Chevron about how the CIO rolled out, I think it was like 30,000 licenses and wasn't sure if there was an ROI or if it was that valuable. And I think it's because it's not as crystal clear on the non-technical side. Would you agree with that, disagree with that, or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I am certain there is huge ROI on the coding side. We've just some rough estimates. It's at least 40x over a 2-year period in terms of how much more productive coders are relative to the cost of enterprise licenses. So I feel super confident about that. In our experience doing some research, there are some pretty clear use cases for non-technical knowledge workers, especially on document analysis. That is a huge one. So folks who have work that involves understanding large sets of written data, and then also writing, it is such a booster. Um, I'm a big fan. I guess I've experimented so much with it myself. Try to drink. Not just telling other people to do it, but doing it myself. That there are so many functions of my work as a non-technical knowledge worker that it's so clear to me when I hear there may not be ROI, I think it's probably more of a question of getting the implementation right. Um, I mean, maybe there are some workers who really couldn't benefit, but my goodness, who doesn't have to write and analyze data and analyze large documents as part of their day? It really feels like folks who aren't getting the ROI yet, it's just a question of building the internal use cases, which is what's
Yeah.
great about the advisory council, like building the success stories so people really trust how to get the benefit out of it.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, man. I use it probably a couple hours a day, uh, religiously for everything you can think of. So it's foreign to me, but I think what I'm seeing too is depending on the job, the department or the function, there's more training needed in certain areas than others for people to really get the juice that they feel is worth the squeeze. You know what I mean? Versus that they
Totally
haven't.
understood. Yeah, great point.
That's kind of what I'm seeing, man. And that's across. It's not just across. Sometimes it's funny. Um, you would expect the younger generation to adapt to it more or want to use it more, and it's actually been the opposite based on studies that it's more the senior level folks in terms of age that have driven higher adoption than some of the younger folks in the non-coding area, shall we say. There's a big study by Microsoft that was out, and I think Anthropic did one as well. That was pretty eye-opening. So I don't want to pass
There's
this.
certainly,
Oh, go ahead. What were you
I'm
saying?
sorry, there's certainly anecdotal evidence that that's similar for coders as well.
Oh, really?
Gen AI is new and magical, but it's also a tool. It's also
Yeah.
a tool. And guess what? You know who's best at using tools? People with wisdom. They know what they're getting. And just watching senior developers decide what questions to ask and how to interpret it. Um, it's my favorite analogy because it's so real, but it's just like open source. It's the most senior developers who know how to take the most advantage of open source libraries and also know that their identity as a coder, like their job isn't necessarily these lines of code. Their job is to get to the right answer. And if open source can help them, they're going to do that. And so just like we see, I've lived experience of watching the most senior coders get the most out of, and experienced coders get the most out of open source. I certainly see anecdotes of the most senior coders getting the most out of Gen AI tools as well.
I love what you said right there. Most of your job is to get to the right answer. That's totally what it's about because it's like you'll do whatever you need to do. Um, so I love that. That was awesome. That's a writer downer, if you will. So I got two questions, and then we'll wrap things up because I want to be sensitive to the time. You mentioned that you use it every day, use it repeatedly. What are your favorite use cases for leveraging Gen AI, and what's your go to tool that you use for it?
Yeah, my favorite use case is thinking through new product ideas.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
I have an amazing product team. Shout out to you, and I love you guys. But sometimes I just want to have a conversation with myself and try things out and negotiate with myself. And of course, it's not just me, but having a conversation with an AI tool is to help refine my thinking and think of alternatives and brainstorm alternatives and then help me wrap it all together. I love that experience and then go off and sit down with Alex and Ankar and we figure it out together. But I love starting. It's so interactive to brainstorm and get a starting point. In
Okay.
terms of tools, love OpenAI's tool. I love Claude. I love Copilot. They all have different specialties, and I will use the tool that serves the purpose. And they're all each one of them is a pretty spectacular tool.
Yeah, I have a confession here. I have the paid version of I think all of them from Gemini to
Yeah.
Claude to Copilot to ChatGPT. So I am practicing what I preach. I do not have the paid tool for Perplexity, but I do use it a lot though. Really impressed with that tool. Have you used
I
Perplexity
did
at all
not
or
say
no?
Perplexity. I definitely use it, and it's also on the short list. I also quite a big fan.
The Pro Have you used Pro Search on there?
I sure do.
Pro
It's
Search
the
is
only thing I
amazing.
use.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, the Pro Search is amazing. So it's almost agentic with how it kind of handles things. So last question. So as you're deploying an advisory council, like what are you kind of doing from a format perspective, frequency, and then how are you approaching this so that outside of like benchmarks and usage points that the technical folks are getting the most out of it?
Sure. So we try to be experimentalists in everything we do, whether it's figuring out the products to build or features, including an AI advisory council. So um, we heard what they wanted to get out of it and how they wanted it structured. Today it is a Slack channel and an occasional email and an occasional meetup. We're sending out books to participants because everybody is they're signing up because they're super curious. So books are part of it. And over time, I think we'll see it evolve further as as folks raise their hand for what they get the most value from. Each audience, of course, with any advisory council is a little bit different, and you want to make sure um, that the members, the most active members, are shaping the direction of it.
Love that, man. Well, we are up on time. Where can people find you? Where can they find out more about you and SEMA?
Sure. You can find us at semasoftware.com, SEMA software. I'm on LinkedIn at Matt Van Itallie. And if you send a message anywhere on our site and you ask for MVI, you will eventually get to me.
I love that, man. MVI reminds me of like a pro athlete. It just the short, quick hitter. So Matt, was awesome having you on the show for part 2. If you did not listen to part 1, go back. It is just as good as what you heard. So and really appreciate having you on the show, Matt.
Ryan, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you. And we will see you all on the next episode.